Piece number 25. Focus. Grandfather and I would take these long walks along the shore to look at the boats softly undulating at anchor. He pointed out details on the vessels and on the shore that, in my youthful exuberance, I often missed. Focus, he would say to me. Don't let the physical world pass you by. There is much wealth in its detail. He told me a story. One day as I left the ship and walked along the dock, I chanced upon a little girl wearing a ballet tutu. She was holding tenaciously to the hand of a man. It was a scene right out of Degas' sculpture, Little Dancer of 14 Years. What was to be remarked on, unfortunately, was the demeanor of her father. I assume the man was her father. He had a blank, vacuous expression that could only be called disinterested to a point of disdain. The little girl seemed not to notice and bounced along in happy abandon, as children seem compelled to do. What was wrong here? I asked myself. It was obvious that the man had missed the moment. We are afforded a limited amount of intimate occurrences in life, and this individual had surely bypassed one of them. Such a pity, such a tragic waste. I wanted to run up to the man and say, "Look, look." I didn't, being reserved and polite. But, of course, then comes the insightful question, why? There are a host of answers to this inquiry, but the truest is probably thoughtlessness. Ruling elites realize that most people do not like to think. Once the Internet began to take on its present incarnation, more and more world leaders, political strategists, bureaucrats, and marketers began to see the long-range implications. Voting and marketing trends, for example, could, quite literally, be manufactured. Simply put, it is much, much easier to control a population if it is thoughtless or driven to its innate, consumptive self than if it thinks. Nothing is more wonderful than the art of being free, but nothing is harder to learn than how to use that freedom. Grandfather was describing wakefulness. Are we alive, or are we just automata floating through temporal space, waiting to be expunged? My observations would conclude less of the former and more of the latter. The answer most pundits believe is related to the Internet, and more specifically, social media. We are slowly being dumbed down. We should all be given a test for awareness at 20 or so and ask just 2 questions. Do you know that only you know you are alive? I think, therefore, I am, from René Descartes. And do you realize that one day you will die and therefore cease to exist? This would certainly have a limiting effect on time wastage, or at least one would hope. Maybe it just doesn't matter, and we should all get on the train towards mutual ecological and spiritual destruction. Nevertheless, it does matter. People are neither stupid nor blind. We are each God's child and have a gift to give humanity. We are simply overwhelmed. There is just too much data to get a grasp on reality. When you fall into a raging river, it is difficult to grasp a branch hanging from the shore and pull yourself up onto solid ground. This, however, can be done. The tools. Firstly, we must simply slow down and reduce our phone usage, something as elemental as leaving the mobile off the table when we eat. Secondly, we must open our eyes to the great world that exists around us. Look at the small things, the bugs, bees, birds, and plants that occupy our consciousness, as well as the large. Thirdly, and most importantly, we must have a talk with our God, in whatever shape or incarnation we see him or her. All answers to life lie within. This is axiomatic to living a successful and meaningful life. It is easy to make simplistic statements, but much harder to change the thrust of one's life. I maintain that if more and more people are made aware of the perils of social media, then our eyes will be opened. The Internet is knowledge personified as God. I know and can know everything. And why not? Knowledge is a good thing. We cannot equate knowledge with wisdom, though. They are mutually exclusive. When we all work together, we will make this world a better and more inviting place for all. Each of us must simply do his small part. Individual water droplets in the sea form the ocean. Grandfather's words come back to me. Why am I here, and what is my mission in life?